DiJonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out on representing.
Know that DiJonai has no self-awareness in what's going on. DiJonai Carrington runs on threads immediately. White privilege at Indiana Fever. White privilege. You running around with blonde hair. It looked like you trying to be white. It looked like you trying to be a white girl. What are you talking about, white privilege? The white girl just got a technical foul for something she didn't even do. What are you talking about, white privilege, bro? This is why she should be banned from the league.
Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham.
DiJonai Carrington just watched her career face a massive crisis in less than 1 week, and much of the damage came from her own decisions. What began as a hard foul that could have disappeared from the news cycle quickly became a full-blown reputation controversy. Instead of fading away, the situation grew rapidly, fueled by Carrington's actions and the intense backlash that followed.
When this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham. Did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there. And I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant too. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. The DiJonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty too. It was absolutely positively correct call. It was called the flagrant two. That's a flagrant two every single damn time in the NBA and the...
Late in the first quarter, Sophie Cunningham broke away on a fast break, but DiJonai Carrington came from behind and struck her around the head and neck, sending Cunningham to the floor. After reviewing the play, officials upgraded the foul to a flagrant two for unnecessary and excessive contact. Carrington was immediately ejected, leaving the court as cameras captured the seriousness of the moment.
Tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant two, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant two has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege.
Now, this is where DiJonai Carrington had a choice, and she made the wrong one almost immediately. Just minutes after being ejected, she posted white privilege on social media and tagged the Fever. With no context or explanation, the message instantly intensified the controversy. She later posted the date of the next Sky Fever matchup with a smiley emoji, which many interpreted as deliberately provoking her opponents.
This is black privilege, to be totally honest with you, because her posting this white racist comment right after assaulting Sophie Cunningham on the court is actually black privilege, because she knows the WNBA won't do a single thing of significance about it. And imagine if the roles were reversed. If Sophie made a comment similar to this, then she'd likely never play again. And actually, we just saw this from Coach Sandy Brondello. She got disciplined for making, I believe, a pretty innocent, maybe, offhand comment about talking about Angel Reese and saying that she's a protected species. She was suspended and disciplined. And I think if that's the standard, then
think about the optics. A player gets ejected for a flagrant foul, then immediately posts one of the most politically charged phrases in modern culture without explanation. Whatever she intended, and despite later giving different explanations, the first impression for millions was that she blamed the officiating for racial reasons. That is an extremely serious implication, and once such a message reaches the public, explaining it afterward cannot completely erase the initial impact.
Bizarre PR strategy to attract eyeballs, or is the WNBA fundamentally broken?
That's you, because you're a good person trying to find some kind of rational reason for doing this other than what it is. It's pure and simple racism and hate. They're mad that the best player in the league is a heterosexual white woman. Let's just be honest. She's not one of the confidants in their creed. And so therefore it's been a concentrated effort to go after her. Even her head coach doesn't stand by her. So, and I think it's hilarious, and at the same time, they don't know what a woman is. And I'm very proud of Freedom and other gentlemen for finding out who they are. And I wish them the best. And hopefully the league will, since it's an all-tolerant league and their head coaches wear shirts about trans women count, well, here's two. And I hope they give them their opportunity, and the young lady in France as well. So I think it's a league that has got away with being racist and disgusting to people, and now they're Americans are smart to it. So hopefully they get some of their own, but I wouldn't let
that post quickly spread across basketball social media, transforming the story from a hard foul into a much larger debate about race, intent, and officiating. Instead of discussing whether the play deserved a flagrant foul, people were questioning whether Carrington had accused the officials, and potentially the league, of racial bias without evidence. National outlets picked up the controversy, while sports talk shows debated it the following morning. Suddenly, the conversation had moved far beyond basketball and into a much broader cultural debate.
Paying attention to what DiJonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DiJonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DiJonai, you hit her in the head.
Then the backlash found a prominent voice. Former NFL player and media personality Emmanuel Acho addressed the controversy on his show, sharply criticizing Carrington's post. He argued that she had struck Cunningham in the head, caused bleeding, and failed to make contact with the ball, calling it ignorant and asinine to connect the foul to white privilege. This was no anonymous social media critic. Acho had a major platform and was publicly questioning Carrington's judgment in front of a large audience. The clip quickly spread online, becoming a defining soundbite. Then Carrington attempted to respond directly, but instead of calming the situation, her reply to Acho on X created even more controversy. "I've never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. I know you studied psych." She kept going, adding that she was the last thing, from ignorant on the subject name dropping her education at Stanford and insisting she'd never use a phrase like that as what she called a rhetorical weapon without evidence behind it. She was claiming she never intended the post. That way, while simultaneously defending her right to use the phrase and mocking the person who criticized her. Instead of creating clarity, the response created more confusion and satisfied neither side. Now, the controversy was no longer only about the original post. It was also about how Carrington handled criticism. Some fans who initially gave her the benefit of the doubt began turning against her, believing her response seemed more focused on winning an argument than addressing the controversy itself.
Game for the rest of the season counts. And the fact that she let her hate and her ego cost the game for her entire team is so toxic. It goes to show that she has very little respect for her teammates because they all work their absolute asses off. They've all got something to prove. They know that, they started the season with all this hype. They didn't kick it off very strong. And so they have all been working their asses off, coming together, playing patiently. When I say patiently, they've been playing patiently, learning how to actually run the court together. A lot of new pieces. There's been some injuries. There's been people returning from injury. There's been a lot of changes. The fact that they were just on the rise, and as a Fever fan, I can say they were actually schooling us in the first quarter. They came back when we were up 8 points. DiJonai herself was balling out, and she just cost the game for her.
2 days later, before Chicago's game against Seattle, Carrington offered a third version of the explanation. She described the foul as unfortunate and unintentional, suggesting that returning from a foot injury affected her timing. When asked about the white privilege post, however, she remained vague, saying she had already spoken with people who had the authority to make the changes she wanted. She never clearly explained what the post meant or who it targeted. Within 3 days, the story had produced multiple explanations, each creating more questions. The foul, the controversial post, and her defensive response became intertwined. Reporters, fans, and potential brand partners were left struggling to understand one consistent account of what actually happened.
White privilege after getting tossed from the game, but says it wasn't about the foul. Can you explain this?
No, I can't. When she tweeted white privilege, she did it so quickly, it was almost as though she had the phone in her pocket after this foul and she got ejected. So, to say she wasn't referring to this play, or getting kicked out and saying that the only reason she got kicked out and it got upgraded is because Sophie Cunningham is white is crazy. It was a crazy thing to tweet, maybe crazier than to try to act like it had nothing to do with the play. So I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't think anybody can have any idea what she's talking about.
Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham did something that made the contrast even more noticeable. She stayed composed. Asked about the post after Indiana's win, Cunningham said the league was addressing it and emphasized that the situation had nothing to do with race. She also pointed out that she had experienced a similar incident the previous year, accepted her ejection, and moved on without making it about race. No shouting, no demands, just a calm response. That difference, one player remaining level-headed while the other offered multiple explanations, can matter greatly to sponsors and franchises. At that point, the discussion was less about who was right on the play and more about who handled pressure better. Cunningham appeared composed, while Carrington continued facing questions about her response.
My God, it's getting real. It is getting very much real for in the field, for them pockets. That's what I like to see. Pockets getting hit hard, bro. Hard. Because somebody need to hold these players accountable for the stupidity they have been putting out, because it has been a lot of stupidity. And to add even more salt to injuries, thousands of people are calling for Reebok to drop their endorsement for DiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Now this was from earlier.
And that brings us to the part of this controversy that could potentially threaten DJ Carrington's commercial future. Reebok signed Carrington to a multi-year endorsement deal last April, positioning her as one of the faces of its basketball relaunch alongside the Engine A sneaker. At the time, the partnership highlighted her success and growing profile in the WNBA, but after the controversy erupted, fans began flooding Reebok's social media pages, demanding that the company reconsider the endorsement. Some accused Carrington of delivering a cheap shot and then failing to provide a convincing explanation. That kind of direct online pressure can become a serious business issue. Brands closely monitor public reactions, especially when negative comments begin overwhelming conversations surrounding their athletes and products.
Do some foolishness. They got to be held accountable just like any other damn race. And I'm telling you right now, she need to be held accountable. So Reebok, stick it to her. Stick it to her, because what she did was ruin a brand deal like no other. She ain't even all that on the basketball court anyways. Common sense would have told you not to clothesline Sophie Cunningham from hell, because you want to know why? The backlash you're going to get from that decision will affect your pockets. And I'm so happy that these brands are now seeing what we've been seeing. A whole lot of BS going on from these players. And I'm telling you right now, more players need to lose brand deals when they do stupidity, especially.
According to reports circulating online, Reebok is allegedly considering ending its partnership with Carrington rather than remaining connected to the controversy. If true, that would represent a significant business decision. Companies rarely abandon athlete partnerships without careful consideration because contracts, marketing campaigns, promotional materials, and substantial investments are often already in place. A move like this could indicate that Reebok wants immediate distance from the growing backlash. Every additional day a brand remains connected to a major controversy can create more unwanted attention, potentially pulling the company's name into headlines and conversations it never intended to be part of.
After getting thrown out of the game for her ridiculous foul on Sophie Cunningham, went to social media and claimed white privilege. To do that, Emmanuel Acho basically pushed back and said you can't call everything white privilege. It undercuts the idea so many have talked about. And then DiJonai went to X and responded to Emmanuel Acho. He said, I never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. No, you studied psych. Furthermore, I'm the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on white privilege. Do your research on that one. Actually went to school, one of the top universities, might I add, to educate myself on this exact subject. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it. So, in your face, Annual. What I want to know is, then why were you posting white privilege in the locker room immediately after being ejected? What were you randomly sitting in the locker room having just been ejected thinking about when you posted white privilege and, by the way, tagged the Indiana Fever?
Here's the uncomfortable truth. None of this had to happen. Flagrant fouls happen in basketball. Players get ejected, accept the consequences, and eventually move on. What changed everything for DJ Carrington was what happened after the whistle. The controversial post tagging the fever, the loaded phrase with no context, the smiley face aimed at the next matchup, the combative response to criticism, and finally, a press conference that created more questions instead of clear answers. Every step was avoidable. Nobody forced her to post immediately or respond aggressively to critics. And when sponsors are watching everything unfold, those choices matter. Brands want athletes who represent them positively, not situations that force companies to explain controversies they never wanted.
She needs to go to jail immediately.
You would have to believe it's going to be up for you.
Go straight to jail. This is assault, right? This is assault. Now let me tell you something. This is assault. She needs to go to jail. Premeditated. Go to jail. Go to jail. She needs to be arrested. Go to jail. I want her in jail. I want her in jail. She should never touch her. Nah, can't do it. All right, we already know the WNBA is in a position right now. You need to make an example of that Don Imus. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. She needs to go to jail for assaulting Miss Cunningham. She needs to go to jail.
There is also a competitive tension underneath this situation that is difficult to ignore when you look at the timeline. Cunningham has become one of the most talked about players in the league this season, attracting national attention, building a huge social following, and becoming part of conversations that extend beyond basketball. Carrington, meanwhile, has had to work harder for headlines despite having a strong season herself. When two players share a competitive history and one consistently dominates the news cycle, old tension can sometimes spill over. Whether that influenced the foul is impossible to know, but everything afterward, the immediate post, defensive responses, and refusal to let the controversy fade, created the appearance of frustration boiling over. Now the potential consequences are significant. A reported Reebok departure could make other brands cautious. Teams may question whether she brings unnecessary distractions, while opposing fans could target her. Even teammates may face questions about controversies they had nothing to do with.
Privilege for a second. Doing something completely wrong and unethical, and instead of taking responsibility, pulls out the race card and acts like a victim. Yeah, that's what we just witnessed here. The sheer lack of accountability on DiJonai's end, that was so intentional. Look at DiJonai staring at Sophie's head the whole time, and look at her reaction after. That's anger. A normal reaction would be to ask if Sophie was okay or immediately apologize. But instead, she shoves her. The audacity to go and cry wolf and pull out the fake victim card and scream white privilege, all the while making Sophie Cunningham bleed as a result to her actions. People are tired of everything being blamed on race. I wouldn't be surprised if DiJonai did this in response to Sophie Cunningham coming out vocally in response to protecting women in women's sports. This was not white privilege. Under DiJonai's definition of white privilege, here's some more white privilege. Getting ejected from the game was called consequences to actions, and DiJonai should be thankful that an ejection is all that happened, because she ought to be suspended from the
Compare that again with how Cunningham handled being on the receiving end of a flagrant foul just last year. She was ejected, admitted she deserved it, and moved forward without turning the incident into something bigger than it needed to be. That is the difference between a rough night and a career crisis. One player let the moment pass. The other kept adding fuel to the fire, post after post and explanation after explanation, until a brand that had invested real money in her image reportedly decided the risk was no longer worth it. And that is the lesson at the center of this entire saga. Talent can get an athlete signed, but composure is what keeps them signed. DiJonai Carrington has never lacked talent or production on the court. But this past week showed how quickly the other side of that equation can disappear when millions of people are watching every post, every quote, and every attempt to explain a growing controversy.